Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Friends, today we'll look at the Sandana Sutta, or with a source or origin from the Dhatu Samyutta, or elements in the connected discourses of the Buddha, that is the Samyutta Nikaya. I think all of you have heard that 4 basic elements go to form this physical body. A knowledge of elements helps us to understand the non-self nature of existence, which is very difficult to understand. For many people believe that there is a self somewhere, or a soul within our body and mind. So we can't see, there is that belief. Before the Buddha arose in the world, all religious teachers believed in a self or soul within each individual. The first teacher to deny that there is a soul or self within us is the Buddha. Instead of such a permanent entity, our consciousness, karma or action, and craving take us from birth to birth. The Buddha teaches that elements are divided into 18 according to the aggregates. You know the aggregates, don't you? Eye, ear, nose. So anyway, now let's see how this is done. The eye element sees forms, and they are called form elements. These two alone, you know, the eye and the form only, cannot perform the function of seeing. So, the eye consciousness element, that's also called an element, the eye consciousness element, joins them so that the act of seeing is complete. That's how we see. When the three are together, that is the eye, the form, and the eye consciousness. Then, similarly, the ear element. Now, these are the sensors, as you know. So, the ear element, the sound element, and the ear consciousness element performs the task of hearing. The nose element, the odor element, and nose consciousness element come together to smell whatever. The tongue element, the taste element, and the tongue consciousness element perform the function of tasting. The body element, the tactile element, and the body consciousness element make touch possible. The mind element, mental phenomena element, and mind consciousness element coming together to form thoughts, views, and all that. That is how these things work. When these three things come together, then the whatever has to be seen or heard or tasted or whatever happens. So altogether, the Buddha has listed 18 elements. These ear, eye, nose, tongue, body and mind have sensitivities. Perhaps you know that, right? Sensitivities called pasada. In Pali, they are called pasada. That are types of material phenomena located in the gross internal sense organs that are able to respond to their appropriate sense object. Now, for instance, in the eye, there is this pasada, that is the sensitivity. The whole eye is not sensitive. There is a spot. In the same way, the ears, the tongue, and so on, you know, when that pasada, it is really a gross thing, but it is within the senses, whatever. And then that is what responds to the object. Now for the eye, it is the form. For the ear, it is the sound. In the same way, to all the sense elements. So, now you might find that in certain places, these are called faculties. But here they are called elements. So, now each sense element has a certain different consciousness. So, that is how we can hear and touch and taste and so on. The mind element also has a mind consciousness, right? So, but the thing is, they are all conditioned. That means they have a cause and an effect. So they are all conditioned and functions only if the internal sense element, for example, the eye or the ear or even the mind, is in good condition, that it is healthy. And also there is an external sense object that has to, you know, respond to it. Then there must be light also. And then the next thing is that there must be attention. If the attention is not there, it will not work. So every consciousness needs attention to become active. In the Rahulovada Sutta, in the Majjhima Nikaya that is, the Buddha defines the internal earth element. Internal means that is within the body. Internal earth element. And that earth element as whatever internally that is found as hard, harsh, and clung to. That is, everybody clings to these things and thinks that they are mine, right? So what are they? Like head hairs, body hairs, teeth, nails, skin, flesh, sinews, bones, etc. Right? There are 20 of those in the earth element. And they have been acquired by our karma. But we firmly take them as I, me, and mine and cling to them. You see? So that is the problem that creates all this trouble. The other elements are also similarly defined. The air element moves through the whole body. Now, we take it in through the nose, right? And it goes through the whole body. The whole body needs air. And its characteristic is moving, swelling, or expanding, while having the earth element as a base. Now, this body is the earth element that is the base for the air element. And it is all held together by water, by the water element and the fire elements. So there are two elements, that is the water element and the fire element, that keeps these other two elements in place, right? So if it were, now if you, I'm sure you would have heard that in an adult human body, it is said that there is as much as 60% water. So the rest is only 40%. If it were not so, if there was no water there, there would be no binding element. You see, the water element is the cohesive element which binds together the other elements also. And, if the water element was not there in our bodies, the cells probably would wander around separately. So that is why it's very important that these four elements come together. Then this body, when it is working properly, then this body stands erect by being propelled or powered by the outside air, because there is air inside and there is air outside, and those two balance the body so that we can stand, sit, or walk, right, or lay down or whatever. So these elements are like a magic trick that deceives foolish people into thinking that a person or self is the actor. Actually, it is the elements themselves that do the work, you see. Because of the diversity of elements, there is diversity of contacts. Because there are so many elements that work together, there are different contacts also. Now, if the contact was not there, the elements will not work. So, and also perceptions and intentions, desires and passions. All these are diverse, right? According to how the elements work. Because they are diverse, these other things are also diverse. They are also different. Dependent on the desire for form, there arises the quest or the seeking for form. Now, when someone sees a form and thinks of it as nice and desirable, then there is the seeking, the wanting, the quest for it, right? With fire of lust, that is like a sense of burning. if this ends in gain, now if this ends in gain means that if this is successful, if that person gets the whatever the form that is sought, then there will be a diversity of gains too. So, in the same way, sensual thoughts of ill will and harming. Now there are these three things: sensual thoughts of ill will, and thoughts of harming. What? Now these three things arise with the cause, because there is a cause for that, or origin. There is a cause or origin for these three things to arise. They don't arise at the same time, at different times. Depending on the sensuality element arises sensual perception. Then, based on sensual perception, arises sensual intention. See how they follow, each follows the other. Then what happens? Dependent on sensual desire arises sensual passion. Dependent on sensual passion arises sensual quest. You see, the quest comes, you see, one after the other, and there is the seeking now. While engaged in sensual quest, the uninstructed worldling, that is called the Putujana in Pali, conducts himself wrongly with body, speech, and mind, and collect bad karma. If someone is attracted to a certain form, he will go, now I'm just taking the way it is given in the book, right? He will go to great lengths to obtain it, and even lie, kill, or steal to satisfy his lust. Dependent on ill will now, see the ill will element and harmfulness element, a similar procedure may result, that same one after the other, you see, the dependency of one to the other will take place, and such a person will accumulate bad karma. So he dwells in suffering in this life with vexation and despair, and after death will get a bad rebirth. But if someone quickly abandons the unrighteous perception, he dwells happily in this life without vexation and despair, and after death gets a good rebirth. Now, you must not think that there are people who do not get any of these, thoughts or perceptions or whatever, or intentions. They do, even good people get. But the good people, what they do is, they get rid of it, they abandon it. Unlike the foolish person who goes after it. Beings come together and unite by way of elements. Now, you must not think that elements is the only factor that unite people. There are other things like karma and, so many other factors too. Those of an inferior character come together and unite with similar beings. Good with the good. This is true in the past, present, and future. Those lacking in faith, shameless, unafraid of wrongdoing, unlearned, lazy, unwise, who destroys life, takes what is not given, engage in sexual misconduct, speak falsely, will unite with those of similar qualities. Also, those who abstain from such misdeeds unite with similar beings. We hear of families that have faith, are generous, and live righteously, while there are other families or groups that get together to rob or kill or sell drugs. I'm sure you have come across these such people in the papers or TV, and or you may have heard of them. You see, in the world you find these people, good people and bad people. In the 4 basic elements, there is, excuse me, in the 4 basic elements, there is gratification. That is a kind of enjoyment. And danger and escape. All these 3 things are there. If these 4 elements were entirely suffering and steeped and immersed in suffering, people would not have been delighted and fascinated with it. But it's also steeped in pleasure. So people are deceived and go on seeking pleasure from birth to birth. That is, from this birth, if they are not satisfied, going to another birth, and so on and so. That's how they go from one birth to another. The Buddha says that those who delight in these elements take delight in suffering. Even if they think that they are getting pleasure, what the Buddha says is ultimately they are getting suffering. These are the ones who do not understand the origin, passing away, the gratification, danger, and escape in the case of these 4 elements, and just enjoy the visible data, that is what they can see and hear and taste and so on. They just go on enjoying, Ultimately, they get deceived. A person has a deluded temperament because the earth element and the fire element are prominent in that person. A person has ill will because he remembers wrong things, whatever wrongs done by others as also by oneself. To get rid of it, ask yourself, what is it you are angry with? Is it the head hairs or body hairs or urine, earth or water element in the head hairs, etc.? Are you angry with any of these things? Or the aggregates? When he tries to find where the anger occurs, then there is no foothold. Then he or she finds that he or she cannot find anywhere where the blame could be put. When a meditator on the elements is insulted or attacked, she or he may think of the emptiness and non-self character of the body and be strong enough not to retaliate, but remain balanced in mind, right? Because the meditator, a true and strong, deep meditator will not, think of sort of hitting back, right? in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, to understand elements, the Buddha gives a simile. Now, this is only a simile, right? As though a skilled butcher, having killed a cow and cut it up into pieces, thinks he is selling meat and not a cow. So too, we should review this body as consisting of elements. Like once when the cow is living, it's a being. There is life in it. But once it is cut up into pieces, there is no life in it. It is just the pieces of meat. In the same way, when we, sort of analyze this body into parts, then we realize that there are only elements. So, then the feeling of I, me and mine will not occur. The word element is a term for what is soulless. So element means soulless, selfless. The realization that there is no self to own will stop being bothered about one's appearance or identity. The meditation on elements, whether in a sitting posture or otherwise, will make it easy to realize the similarity of one's own body and that of others, and how dependent we are on the external environment to maintain this body. You see, now we are living because we have to get certain things from the environment, and we eat and we drink and do all these things from the environment. The earth element in the body needs the external earth element to provide food and water for its survival. To maintain the temperature at a comfortable level and to digest the food we eat, the fire element is essential. The wind element keeps the body alive with the in and out breaths. Even for our own survival, we need to protect and care for the environment and not selfishly injure or harm it, as we are doing or we have done all this, time. So that, they say there is a big hole in the atmosphere, which is affecting the world. So these are things that we have to be careful about, so that at least for our own survival, if not for compassion and kindness towards the environment. When we meditate on these four primary elements in ourselves and in the outside world, we will not feel threatened by external forces or situations, for we will recognize that everything and everyone is composed of these same four elements. Now, when we use words like Sudinna or Tom or Mary or whatever name, or or book or desk or computer, now all these names are just names we use for our convenience to communicate. So that we will realize when we meditate on the elements. The distinctions we make between people will diminish, and we'll be able to realize the total oneness of existence. When we see this inseparableness from the rest of the world. Can we live alone? Can we? So we need people, we need the environment, we need all this that is there, right? So we have to take care of them. So when we see this, that we need the rest of the world, and it is not necessary to outshine others in many ways. So that also, that idea of outshining other people, trying to do better, will also disappear. So that there will be no stress or strain, and we could just be ourselves. The Buddha says that the renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness elements too arise in human beings due to a cause. They are the noble disciples who abandon, dispels, and extinguishes whatever unrighteous perceptions arise in them in this very life, so that they live without vexation here, now, and after death get reborn in a good destination. Renunciation is not only giving up the household life, but practicing metta or loving kindness, practicing all wholesome states like generosity, compassion, etc., while living as a householder. So don't think that to practice these things, it is necessary to take the robe or go leave the house and go to a forest or somewhere. It's not necessary. While being in this world, being a householder, still you could practice all this and be in the path, follow the Noble Eightfold Path, and get closer and closer to liberation. Thank you. So if you have any questions, please ask. It looks as if there are no questions. So nobody is willing to ask a question. Okay. I thought there was something in the score. So then in that case, shall we do a little meditation? So today I am going to do a meditation on the elements. The earth element. There is a question. Let me see. While being a layperson, is it possible? It went off. Where is that? It's not in the chat box also. Can you please give it again so that I can read it out? Is it possible to become liberated, or would it just help in the next life? I think both are correct. Now, while the Buddha was living, there were many householders, both male as well as female, who got liberated, right? But we have to, the commentaries say or some of the suttas say that there were people who had come along with the Buddha, in many, many births, practicing the Dhamma. So now we must not think that we are different. We may be lesser or weaker, but we are also practicing the Dhamma. So that we also have come a certain way. Otherwise, we won't be here like this, right? So that means that we are also, whether we are in household life or in the homeless life, we are also practitioners. And as practitioners, it is our, privilege or our, duty to keep to that and not to abandon the practice. Now, there are some people who think after a certain time, maybe they give about 1 or 2 months or years, and then after that they think, oh, this practice is of no use. I have not gained anything. But the thing is, now I can tell you from my own experience. Now, I was also a lay person, but today, now when I look back 20 years, 30 years back, I see quite a difference from that person who was there at that time and the person here now. I'm using the word person, to communicate, but there is no person actually. So, but anyway, there is a big difference, you see, because of the practice. In the same way, I'm sure all of you who are practicing will find that when you compare your own life with your life so many years back, and if you are practicing now, you will see there is a difference. Now, there was another question. Another part of the question was, is it possible to gain liberation in this life? So that is the part that I answered just now, that it is possible if we are really and truly practicing. Then the other part of the question was, or is it a, way of going forward? Yes, because if we gain, now Buddha gives many examples. Now, one is where you keep a pot outside when it's raining, and then the pot gets filled drop by drop, until one day it gets filled. In the same way, when we do things, when we do good things, it is like that pot that gets filled up. So little by little, we too, maybe we cannot finish in this birth, we go on to a next birth and we continue, so that ultimately we can do it. So that is how we have to look at things. Not be disappointed when everything that you want does not come true. Because you see, life is like that. We never get what we wish for, do we? It's not like that. But we have to accept things as they are and continue. Not be disappointed, not get desperate or, in any way disappointed and give up, right? So that is my answer to that question. Any more questions? So like this first question, why not write out the question if you don't want to say? Okay, then we will come to the meditation part, right? So the meditation, yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you again today for sharing with us. You have a very big heart to share all of this with us. You have a very powerful heart.
Yes, Danny. I didn't get the question part.
I just wanted to thank.
Okay, Danny. Thank you very much. Yeah. Could you share your thoughts on this? Thank you, Aya. What is that about? I didn't see the other part, please. I didn't actually understand the question. I read it, but couldn't understand it exactly. Could you give a little more detail? About Dhatu? Dhatu means elements, yes. And I, of course, I went to the Samyutta, Dhatu Samyutta, and there is a whole section on the elements in the Dhatu Samyutta. So I tried to get from there. Corresponding to mental? I think what is being said is that after all, when you go to see, everything comes from the mind first, isn't that so? Because you have to first think, then say, then act. So therefore, everything is after all mental. Yeah, that is true. I don't know whether I have confused or whether I have answered. Okay, then shall we get on to the earth, the meditation. Sit down, please. Sit properly. And first, we must think that the earth element has the characteristics of hardness, softness, rigidity, roughness, and solidity. All these qualities are there in the earth element. So now when we think of our own earth element, this body and mind, then the meditation on elements becomes successful. It is not only the elements that we find outside that we have to think about. Mostly the most important elements that we have to think about is within this body. So this body, now let us see how we could do a little meditation on that. So please close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Now let that feeling of solidity or, rigidity or solidity or hardness, roughness, that feeling flow into and merge with the earth element of the chair or cushion that you sit on. Now you're sitting on a chair or a cushion or maybe the floor or wherever. Now let that solidity that we were talking about, the earth element, merge together. That is your own body, the earth element, and the cushion or the chair. May think of those two as merging, as joining, coming together. Now, become aware of the earth element in the soles of your feet and in the floor. Now, the soles of your feet may be touching the floor. So think of those two as merging, the two earth elements merging. Now, imagine, you're not actually doing this, right? You imagine that you are going to walk outside. Now, with each step, the earth element in your feet merge with the earth element of the floor. You walk on it, right? Now you're walking, not walking, but you're thinking or imagining that you're walking while you're seated there. You imagine that you're walking from there to walk outside. So while you're walking, just think your feet are merging with the floor, the element, the earth element of the floor and the earth element of your feet are coming together, merging. Now you walk to the door and put your hand on the doorknob. The earth element in the palm of your hand merges into the earth element of the door, which you open now. Now think of that. While you take your hand there and the palm, the earth element in the palm merges with the doorknob. That is also the earth element. And now you open the door. Now imagine walking outside, your feet merging with the actual earth under your feet. The earth element in the earth and your feet, the earth element in your feet, they are coming together. Now when you walk when you walk outside, now walk to the nearest tree. Walk to the nearest tree. Now all this is imagination, right? You're still seated. Walk to the nearest tree. Lean against the trunk, allowing your body to merge with the solidity of the tree. Now see, the tree has the earth element. Your body has the earth element. Now these two are coming together, merging. Now, come back the same way you have gone. Come back. Thinking of the earth element as you walk, the body, earth element, and whatever is outside that you touch. Now come back to your seat through the door in the same way. Again, feeling the earth element. As you walk, touch the door knob and sit on your chair or cushion. So you have come back to the same place. You have actually not moved, but you see, in imagination, you have done. So you have come back. This meditation is one that was given by Ayya Khema, who passed away some time ago. Let us respectfully and gratefully thank her and wish her the noble happiness of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.